good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of On the Other Line Canada. Broden, big surprise, you're back. You're the first one to comment on the show. I'm in a giving mood. Somewhere behind me in a box of who knows what is going on, I do have something to send you. So why don't you go ahead and message me your address? I've noticed that you've been doing very well in the standings for your little kayak adventure, and maybe we'll have to get you on the show to talk about that. Aaron, welcome to the show. Hope you're having a great week. Good to see you on here again. Speaking of on here again, I want to say I'm getting tired of you, but I think I just love you too much. And seeing the hairdo that you're hiding under your Yukon hat makes me wonder, are you growing it out for the winter?
I don't know. Actually, I need a haircut. I've been saying it for the last about 3 weeks, but work's been crazy, so I haven't made it there. There's way more fun things to do instead of doing that.
Maybe Aaron would be willing to shave it for you.
Actually, she won't shave my head.
Bickett?
I used to shave my head all the time, but I don't anymore because it's not the look for me anymore. I like to look approachable, I guess, now.
I don't know if I've ever known you to be approachable. That's not really the word I'd use to describe you. But I mean, I guess as you age, maybe that's a word you want to add in your vocabulary, because I do notice one thing. I see gray in the beard.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started. It's coming hard.
You're grayed out.
The head's still good. The beard it's just going to do that salt and pepper because that's just the way it rolls. But
do you ever threaten to dye your hair?
No.
Okay. I do that. You should see the look.
Do you ever want to buy a man purse?
Well, I've tried the man bun routine a little bit, and I notice it seems to be coming back a little bit. I don't know if I should openly admit that, but what am I supposed to say? I'm the original horseshoe kid, right? So,
yeah.
Speaking of that, hey, Adam, welcome to the show. We're still friends. We didn't talk for about a week. Next week when Adam's on the show. Is it going
to be a fish off or something for that name? Because someone has to be the champion.
Adam wanted to do a hug off. It was real awkward. I don't really know how I feel about the personal bubble stuff, but again, a whole other conversation for our After Dark episode with special guest Kevin Wilson. And I will warn everyone now, if I look like a creep, it's because I've been reading Kevin's articles here for the last week in preparation for the show. You guys are going to have fun talking to Kevin.
Here's another thing. Did you see me and Lisa on Sunday?
Lisa and I.
Well, yeah, I was the net kid.
How do you see Tiger?
No.
Okay. You guys won. Well, Lisa won.
Lisa won, and I supported her.
No, I feel like you kind of left me out of the loop here, because up to the show that we had Lisa on, I did not know that you were going to be helping her. So
I did not know till Friday night. We couldn't even get back to the boat launch. We had to go back to her brother's because we couldn't get back across the lake. We launched this one wave, like we launched it, like launched out, then porpoised under. And then it was like, well, we better go around the other way.
Oh, man, you and your terms.
Yeah, no, Lisa's crazy. Like, she put on a performance, kicked some butt.
Team Alberta, or as Kevin will say, Team Kick-Ass. I know he asked if he could say kick-ass, so Kevin, this is the proof. We'll bring you on in a second. Tiffany, welcome to the show. Joel bought a quad. I think we need to take that thing out. Chelsea, the second horseshoe kid, Adam. Even Lee is on the show. Can you believe that? And he heard my perfect grammar, which never happens. And the man himself, Mr. Greg Rice, is on here as well this week. We got a house full. Let's bring him in. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Hi, Greg. Just saying hi while I can.
Yeah. Do you know Greg Rice?
We do a little bit. Yeah, I've been helping Lexi out a little bit.
How do you feel about the fact that maybe Lexi is better at angling and making gear than Greg is? Do you think Greg is maybe a little bit more of the follower and the taxi driver?
Well, yeah, I mean, she's a cute kid. She's got it going on. She knows how to make lures. She can catch fish. I mean, what's to complain about there?
It's true, and actually, I am the first to notice. I mean, I've had the pleasure of fishing with Greg a few times, uh, and what's weird is since Lexi started making lures, Greg suddenly has fish to post. So I don't really know if that has something to do with it, but I mean, it's just a suspicion, and we're pretty classic for not wanting to stir the pot on here very often, Kevin. I know it's your first time, but
Yeah, I
Greg is
picked up on that.
usually
Yeah. Yeah.
he's the butt end of the odd joke around here. So
Greg, don't worry about it. When Heather started hunting, I mean, at first it was all about, making sure she got stuff and shot stuff and caught stuff. You know what? She's more accomplished than I am now, I think, and the public kind of knows that. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm going, hey, wait a second here. This is getting a little carried away. So I get it.
we're on the topic. First of all, Lexi says hi.
Hey, Lexi.
We had this conversation this weekend with Marcy where we were at her sister's wedding and someone made the joke that she's faking it when it comes to fishing. Now, the conversation led into the fact that I feel, and I don't know how you feel about hunting, I feel like I let Marcy win fishing competitions. Do you feel like you let Heather win hunting competitions?
Oh, you know what? If I said that out loud and she heard it, she'd be on here in a second ripping this headset off. So no, she earns every stripe she's got now. She's actually a guide now too. She's a very accomplished guide.
That is amazing. Now, the pressure with guiding, do you ever get stressed out with being able to really produce? I know I've talked to Mitch about this before. Do you find that it's actually affected your passion for the outdoors when you're trying to get people on whatever it is you're targeting?
You know what? As a fishing guide, I don't really feel that pressure. As a hunting guide, I do, and I'll tell you why. I mean, we know that you can't make animals do what they're not going to do. That said, in my early years, I've been guiding for 30 years and an outfitter for 21 now, I think. And as an outfitter, at first I was really stressed about it. But you know what? If you do all the things right that you know how to do, most of the time it works out, and most of the time your clients succeed. So, I'm pretty chill now. I don't get quite as stressed as I used to. If any of my guys are listening, they'll be laughing, going, "Yeah, whatever." But no, I don't get as stressed now.
Do you have any pre-guide rituals? Like, are you no bananas on the boat kind of person, or like, do you have something where you're like, yeah, it's not going to fly on my trip?
I don't actually. I mean, bananas are a thing for sure, but that's kind of universal. But there you go. Oh, have it on the show. That'll help. Yeah, right.
Is a banana on the show bad luck, Kevin? I'm just wondering. I
I
mean,
would
should we
imagine.
maybe try the theory out?
I would imagine. Yeah.
How's breakfast banana? I don't know. I guess we'll kind of see what happens.
That's an evening banana now.
Evening
Yeah.
banana. Post.
What are you going to eat tomorrow for breakfast?
If we were to get into this topic, I, bitch, how dare you?
Why did you bring a breakfast banana to an evening show?
My loving fiance brings me breakfast in the morning in my office, which doubles as their day home nap room when I'm not home. And there was a banana on my plate. And for whatever reason, I saw something shiny and didn't take it with me this morning. So that's the real story behind this. Anyways, back to omens. So you don't have any pre-trip plans or things that you won't accept. But when you're planning a trip, how much time is involved in getting ready for, gearing up or studying what it is you're going to be targeting?
Really, that totally depends on what we're doing. So if we're doing walleye and we're going to a known lake, I know the structure, I know the time of year, I know what to use. I pretty much have that dialed. I mean, that's really not an issue for me. I don't guide a lot of fishing, but I do some, and I mostly do it for another outfitter. But for myself, with the and our outfit, Alberta Hunting Adventures, we bring in mostly Americans and Europeans. I just guided a guy from the UK. On our deer hunts, it's all of our work goes in ahead of time. When the hunt actually happens, it's all about escorting a guy in on a stand and just letting things unfold. But everything from trail camera work to walking properties and evaluating trails and trail intersections, and really understanding whitetail behavior different times of the year. That's the big thing from my point of view as an outfitter and guide. Yeah.
Right. Now you mentioned a lot of people that come in from the States or the UK. How has that affected the business for you in the last year and a half, 2 years? Are you finding that that's coming back? There's starting to be more interest in people wanting to try to find a way back to be able to take that in.
Yeah, the interest is overwhelming. Actually, people want to come. Our border restrictions have the closure, of course, kept them away and shut us down last year. Essentially, we could take Canadians and that sort of thing, but that's not a really positive business model for us in terms of where we operate. But yeah, like even this guy from the UK, he phoned last minute in August. He says, "Hey, you got anything?" And I said, "Yeah, I got something. What do you want to do?" And he says, "I just got to get out of here." People are
Yeah.
really anxious to get traveling again.
Right. When you're dealing with someone that wants to come over and experience that, do you ever have the issue where sometimes the person you're guiding maybe feels that they have more experience? Like, for example, for fishing, I've been on a few guided trips where I bite my tongue and I'm like, dude, if I was guiding this, I would know right now what to do. It's rare, but do you find that typically clients are more likely to lean on you for the experience, or is there ever a point where they're frustrated and they kind of try to steamroll you with it?
Yeah, I think it's a three. Let's say it's a 4-to-1 ratio. 1 out of 4 is like all over it. They want to tell you what to do, buddy, dude. I think you should be doing this, and why am I not doing this? And I have to change stands, and I have to do this, and I don't think this is right. That kind of thing. But I've got some pretty good ways of dealing with those guys, and honestly, if they keep it up, I just switch them, do exactly what they say, and every time it doesn't work for them on the first switch around. And
Yep.
every time I go back and I confirm what's going on, and every time I put them back, and not every time, but most of the times, they're successful after I put them back. So, it's a thing. I mean, I've been on lots of guided trips myself, and even angling. I was on Lake Athabasca one time with Indian Head, and bless his heart, great guide. He knew how to catch fish. Wasn't quite there with the big fish, and finally about day and kind of mid day 2, I said, why don't we try this? Why don't we just try this and just see what happens? Boom, we were into 40 and 50 pounders. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, I should say 50 pounders. I think there was a 50 pounder caught that week, but there was like the big ones anyways. Yeah.
And it is amazing how sometimes it's just a simple change of tactic, which, I mean, looking at fishing in particular, what I might use here in southern Alberta may or may not work in northern, and vice versa. And sometimes if it's
Yeah.
slow, it's just a matter of changing it up.
Yeah, and I mean, like you alluded to, the longer we do what we do in the outdoors, we realize that we don't have the answer everywhere by any means. And so most of the time, I just kind of shut up and listen and do what they say. But if it's not working, I'm more than happy to offer some suggestions.
This is where I'm lacking in my life, Kevin. I have a hard time shutting up. And in case you haven't noticed, Mitch is sitting there going like, man, this guy's just, this is how he is. This is how it works.
I'm like that. What's those magicians? You're the guy that talks, and I'm just the silent guy that does tricks.
Like Rocky and Bullwinkle? No, not really.
Those people aren't magicians.
Well,
I mean, they're kind of magicians.
If people read my stuff, they know words are what I do. I mean, I write for a living. That's part of what I do. So I'm listening to you guys at the start of the show. I'm thinking, man, this is so cryptic. I got to put the pieces together to figure out what you're talking about.
If there's one thing that's for certain, Kevin, is Mitch and I have known each other for a long time. And one thing a lot of our friends say when they come on is they're like, man, half your jokes I can't get. And I don't know if it's a dig at me or if you're just making fun. Is just very much my attitude. I'm kind of like the guy that likes to make fun of myself before I'll make fun of anybody else. But with this show, typically Mitch makes fun of me like I make fun of Greg Rice. So
yeah,
you brought up how much you enjoy writing. Now, for anyone that doesn't read Outdoor Canada, here's an example of how much writing Kevin does. What are you in, Kevin? I figure every second art magazine that comes out for Outdoor Canada. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, could be, something like that. I don't know. They assign us a whole bunch of stuff during the year and plug it in wherever they need it and that sort of thing. But
What is
yeah,
it like for you for time commitment? Because like I read a lot of your articles, and when you say about how much you enjoy the word aspect, when I'm reading the detail that you're fitting into your articles, is this taking a lot of time for you to be able to write an article?
some that's a good question. Some are, and some aren't labor intensive. When you get as old as I am, and I'm 54 now, scares me to even say that. Yeah, but yeah, when you're as old as I am, like you've learned some things. Doesn't mean you know everything by any means, but um, I just lost you there. There we go. Um, you learn some things, and so there's a lot of it just kind of rolls, but you got to make sure you're right. And a friend of mine, another outdoor writer, a lot of names will know, a lot of people on here will know, Ken Bailey made a comment to me many years ago. He said, and this was probably 25 years ago. I've been writing for 30 plus years.
Wow.
He said, don't always be the expert, make other people the expert. And so I've taken that to heart, and that's really important. So yeah, some stuff's easy to write, some stuff isn't. Some's more technical, some's more newsy, that sort of thing. I think I've got well over 400, probably close to 500 pieces published now in over 30 or 35 different magazines in North America. And yeah, kind of been around, I guess.
So do you have like a Kevin Wilson wall in the garage where you have all of your articles framed? Or do you ever see one and you're like, man, I forgot I wrote that, 30 years ago? Like,
Yeah.
Do you run into that very often where you're like, man, I forgot about that phase of my life? Because it really is kind of documenting your life and your experiences, right?
Yeah. And it's actually, to be very honest and very real, it's sobering to actually realize that people read your stuff, frankly. I every year I have somebody that posts a PDF of an article on social media and says, "Hey, guess what I found?" And I learned something here, and this guy helped me be successful, and that sort of thing. So it's quite sobering actually to realize that people actually pay attention, for one thing.
Yeah.
In my world, the first year or two I was writing, and back then, writing was the video of today, and I thought, wow, that's cool to see my name in print. Even cooler to see pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I was the guy that always looked at pictures in hunting magazines. I never read stuff.
Yeah.
But fast forward, maybe 15 years ago, it just became a thing I do. And in partnership with doing seminars and hosting shows and different things, it's just become part of an outdoor communicator lifestyle.
Right. Well, Broden's got a question for you. What got you into writing and writing for magazines?
You're gonna laugh. Wasn't me. I hated writing. I in university, I actually avoided every single class I could that had anything to do with writing. I got through 2 years of university without having to write a single paper. But honestly, somebody said to me, they said, "Man, you got so many cool hunting experiences, hunting stories. You should write them up." So I wrote a story for what was Western Sportsman back then.
Yeah.
And within a month, I had 3 different magazines calling me, asking me for stuff, and it just took off from there.
Wow.
Right time, right place.
Yeah.
Does it feel like you've been writing for that long?
Yeah, I actually had some hair back then, believe it or not. Yeah.
Was that when you had your afro?
Yeah, not quite. No, the afro was before that. Those were my wrestling days. Yeah.
That'd be some good hunting.
Yeah,
Like
right out of the cap. Yeah.
Well, you could dye it yellow, then put a black pole, like if you're hunting the sunflower edges.
Yeah. Broden, I hope that answered the question. It was Broden, right?
Broden, yeah.
I think I answered the question there, but you watch. I'm going to get people asking to post pictures of the trucker cap with the afro on the outside.
People are going to be looking for your wrestling photo in the paper. That's what they're going to be doing. And some people have nothing better to do.
Yeah, backstory on that real quick. When I was in high school, I was on the wrestling team in high school, and I used to do a paper route, stop to checked my bundles when I delivered papers, and I looked on the sports section front page. There's this guy with a big afro pinning a guy on the mat, and I thought, man, that guy looks pretty cool. I look, and it's me with an afro, and it's, yeah, believe it or not. So
You were
nothing
like a
that.
local legend, wrestling legend.
Yeah, in my own mind. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What got you into bow hunting, Kevin? Because all your articles that I've been reading through, and for me, I don't bow hunt. We talked about it last week about how maybe I might be interested in finding a 302nd hobby. What got you into bow hunting? Because I can tell your passion for the way you write for it, not to mention your passion for hunting birds with bow. Where did it start for you?
I had a buddy that lives in Wetaskiwin, and I kind of spent my formative years out there hanging out with him, getting into all kinds of trouble, and and to be honest, he got into bow hunting. He shot a bear, and I thought that was the coolest thing on the planet. Nothing could be cooler than shooting a bear with a bow. So I convinced him to kind of show me how to do that, and we ran some baits, and I ended up shooting my first bear, and never looked back after that. It's just, I mean, I hunt with everything now, but I love rifle hunting, I love muzzleloader hunting, but I truly do love bow hunting.
There's something about sitting over a bear bait with your bow. Like even your first time, it's just when that bear walks in, it's just that predator walking in, just the humbling moment, even if it's just a mom and a cub, it's just watching them interact. It's just a special thing to be a part of.
It is. It's very cool. I just wrote an article today, in fact, on spot and stock bow hunting on the ground, black bears, and just trying to revisit the feeling you get when you're close to a bear. And I mean, I live with bears with my other work, but as a guide, as a outdoor writer, just a recreational hunter, I love hunting bears for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never hunted bear. I feel like I want to, but I do not know how to get my head around the fact of harvesting a bear to eat. I know it tastes good. I'm told all the time. I do not know how to change my mentality about it in general. And I think that's probably just because I'm becoming a city boy more than anything is the only thing I can rack it up to. Mitch is shaking his head.
Well, I don't know why. It's an animal. It's a food. It's something you can eat. Like you can get blanket off of it, jacket, mitts, hats. Like it's something that provides for you, and there's meat there, and the meat's good. Like there's nothing wrong with it. You have to maybe cook it a little extra, but it's still a delicious food source, and it provides you those extra things like gloves and like I use one of my hides. We use them for our camping chairs. When it gets into the fall, we put them on our camping chairs, and you put them on your back so your back's not getting cold while you're sitting by the fire because you got that nice warmth right behind you and you're staying warm.
And here's the one thing I do appreciate about the bear hunt, and it's why I do want to experience it. Maybe next year, Mitch, you can send me some hot spots. I'll just follow you around like you do for fishing. The one thing that I truly appreciate about bear hunts is how, for both of you as hunters, make a point of ensuring that you're using every part of that animal for the harvest, which is more than what we can say for many species, right?
Yeah, and one of the things I've talked a lot to people about, my other business, Wild Encounters, we do a lot of predator management for industry. One of the things we do in our training courses that we teach on bear defense, we talk a lot about predation, and we talk about how bears interact with other species, and the very fact that bears kill a lot of moose, moose calves, elk calves, fawns, deer fawns. It's at this point in history, the hunt is extremely sustainable. We have an overabundance of black bears, and in fact, we can't shoot grizzly bears in Alberta, but we have an overabundance of grizzly bears as well. And it's really important for people to understand that part of that is predator control, just like shooting coyotes and wolves.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we talked about that a little bit before the show, and how it's kind of shifting with even the population with grizzlies. And really how we as hunters can work towards trying to kind of maintain, those numbers and ensure some stability within the, I don't even know what to call it. I'm actually lost for words. Ecosystem? Can I say
Yep.
ecosystem?
Yeah. Biodiversity. It's balance and biodiversity is absolutely critical. When there's an
And
overabundance of predator-prey relationships go up and down and they ebb and flow, but when we've got too much input from humans, we see an imbalance. And when that gets, I guess, imbalanced, it's not good. So we need to intercede, and we need to get involved and play a role in predator control.
yeah, we look at west of Rocky, all the way out to the Banff border. The wolves, bears, grizzly bears are just, the numbers are so high. I watched mule deer herds go to nothing. I've seen like the elk herds we used to hunt. You see two or three, and that's your herd kind of. They're so spread out. The population is so destroyed. It's just horrible out there now. And now you see the wolves and stuff, they're starting to die just because they don't have that food source anymore. It's just brutal.
It really is. I meet frequently with Alberta Environment, and that's always a part of the conversation. And I do think that they are often slow, and they will acknowledge they're often slow to respond. Sometimes that can be said more emphatically, and that's actually one of my articles on deer management and predator control was one of the things that launched a relationship between myself and Alberta Environment at an upper management level to start talking about, hey, how can we be a little more proactive about these things, because we really are seeing a big problem in Alberta right now. Actually,
Yeah.
all of North America is.
And you just brought up the proactive aspect, Kevin. And I was going to actually ask you, how do we as individuals work on getting these governing bodies to be more proactive than just reactive? Because we are seeing it in the fishing world more than anything, especially with the pressure that's been applied the last couple of years with people wanting to get out. What would you recommend we could do as individuals to try to change that frame of mind for those governing bodies going forward?
It's no different than this recent election. I don't even want to get into politics, but because I know we're all not happy about the result, but it really is the same. Have a voice. Even with your MLA, believe it or not, it's really, really important to have a voice with the department, with the ministries, with your MLA, and say, hey, this is a problem, and place a phone call, place an email, have a meeting with them. It goes a long way, believe it or not. And it took me a while to figure that one out, but it goes a long way. When they hear from you, it matters.
It sounds like we have to set up a meeting with our MLA on the show, maybe.
Might not be a horrible idea. I mentioned to Kevin before the show, the only thing that worries me is we may have to offer tickets to interviewed guests for obvious reasons, because I don't know if you've noticed, Kevin, but do you find social media is very dramatic?
It's getting more so. Everybody's on steroids, it seems, with attitude. But I think if everybody just chills out and talks common sense and has rational discussions, we can actually get places. We're getting so serious, guys.
Yeah, I think if we could do a live show, maybe at somewhere like a hall or something, and
Like
we could bring a couple people with that MLA and have a discussion about certain things like grizzly populations. Elk population is just horrid west of, like, it's just the population is just destroyed in central Alberta in the mountain areas. Like, the wolves and grizzlies just destroyed it, and that used to be like some of the best hunting around.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm interested to know from both of you, do you think that we're going to be faced with the same issues that we did have or do have with fishing, where now everybody is wanting to go out and experience it, and we're going to find a major strain on the resources that we have already with the depleted stocks?
I'll comment on that one. I don't think there's any question. Just like we've seen a significant strain on the actual space and on the landscape, with litter and human waste and all these different things. I mean, boy, along Abraham Lake there, that one just blows my mind. And if we don't get a grip on that ASAP, we're going to have a very, very serious collapse. I remember, you guys might remember this too. I don't know, probably about 20 years ago, there were these fisheries management meetings over the walleye fisheries, and I think there was a little bit on pike, but mostly walleye, and it was a big deal. Then we seem to kind of get that under control, and we seem to kind of let it roll. Well, now we're starting to see more pressure again, and unless we do that, hopefully we've got the minister listening tonight. I doubt it, but I hope so. And they need to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, no, like back then, after they restocked back then, right? That's when they did their good full stock on a majority of the central Alberta lakes.
Yeah.
And like slot sizes are good if you have a population to sustain it. But since you're in central Alberta, we don't have a population, I don't think, to do a slot size on those lakes like Gull, Sylvan. Like it just turns into a buck lake. You got your stunted ones. In the spring you get a few. Then after the spring, no one's catching keepers. And it's the same as Gull, which is turning into. Sylvan, they left without a size slot, and that's just crazy.
So what is the solution? Do we shut down bodies of water or hunting areas to be able to allow it to bounce back?
I'll comment on that one. I am a firm believer in education, and I'm a firm believer in hands-on education. It's a conversation I constantly have with fish and wildlife officers, as you guys probably do as well. I generally caution them, and most of them I know a lot of them personally. So, but I caution them and say, hey, look, instead of slapping a ticket on the guy, why don't you actually educate him on how to handle a sturgeon? Why don't you, like, sturgeon to me is one that's coming up here that's going to be a real issue because it's becoming so popular, and every man and his dog is doing it because it's accessible.
Yep.
And I think we're going to see an issue unless they get a grip on what's going on with how people handle sturgeon, for one thing.
Exactly that. Handling is everything, right? And I mean, you look at this season in particular with the amount of pressure that was on the water systems, not only that combined with the heat. I mean, we see it all the time. I'm sure you see it, Kevin, on social media. The handling skills of people that are angling in most scenarios are people that have not been trained or taught the proper way of going about it, right? I mean, I can even say for myself, looking back at it now, the way we treated fish as a kid growing up was not the way we treat fish now that we're releasing.
But that's a really good point, and it applies to hunting as well. In my opinion, well, I'll share personally. Nobody taught me how to hunt. My one buddy I mentioned there, he kind of said, "Well, there's a tree stand, go shoot something." And I back then, I guess I've been bow hunting since, oh my goodness, 30 years now, something like that. 32 years, I think. Anyways, the first deer I shot, and I'll be the first guy to say it out loud, I didn't know where to hit him. I thought, well, you shoot him center of the body. I hunted a little bit, but nobody ever taught me about that stuff. And fishing is no different. We need to be improving our hunter education programs, our fishing education, everything. We really need to be working on teaching people the finer points of all of this.
Yeah. That's what brings us to that course. Like, we need to have a fishing education course.
Yeah.
Same as Hunter's Ed. Like,
100%.
you should be able, like, you have to be able to identify it. You have to be able to pass the course, because there's people that just go out and they'll just play stupid, and it's just getting ridiculous.
100%. And I would really we really need to be lobbying them to update the hunter education program. My respectfully, great program, but it's outdated. And my daughters, even a few years back when they went through it, I made a list of all the things that were actually mistakes in the manual. I don't know if you guys have picked that stuff up or some of our listeners have, but there's several mistakes throughout, and I brought it to their attention. But I think it's all a money issue too, trying to get that reprinted and redesigned. I'd love to be a part of that program.
And you kind of have to wonder too, right? Like when we're talking about stuff like that, maybe a lot of the individuals that are involved in writing and creating direction of that don't have a lot of experience in the industry, as an example.
Yeah.
I know in my business, we're seeing it more and more where people that come in as professionals don't really have any experience whatsoever in the world of work of what we do, and that can really affect the outcome of what's happening. So I mean, I wish there was a way we could, like I said earlier, as individuals, find a way to kind of right the ship and correct it, because the path I see, unfortunately, is not looking good for future outlook if we don't change something drastically quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean everything from the equipment we use to even our tree stand safety is a great example. Like 30 years ago, we didn't talk about safety lines and lifelines and harnesses.
Yep.
We just held on and Hail Married it.
We talked about that with Lisa, actually. I mean, first of all, I'm not going in a tree stand, but they're
need a tree shack.
What's that, Mitch?
You need a tree shack, being as big as you are.
Yeah, I need like a tree hammock. Whatever it is the Ewoks build and use to walk from shack to shack, man. That's what I want. I'm not.
There you go.
I'm not doing the tree stand thing.
But yeah, no. There's so much education that has to be updated. Like, I know there's things trying to get updated, but it's just the process. Like, we can say as much as we want, and it still has to go through all these things, and no one really wants to deal with it, especially with all the elections lately. Like, this was just horrible that I'm not getting into it, but there's so much time we can put into other things that they're not getting put into, and we're losing funding for those things, for the outdoors and stuff, which we could use to educate, because like, people are getting outdoors more. You can't be inside, so they're going everywhere, and they have no education on how to camp. They have no education on anything, and they're going to leave a mess. They don't know how to walk so far away from your camp, bury it so far deep if you don't have a trailer and stuff, to keep that area looking clean and keeping it bear safe. It's just,
well, it's interesting as an outdoor communicator for magazines, especially, and now with TV. I don't know if folks tune into Bozone Live, but one of the things we talk about as a team on Bozone Live is it's not just about the hunt. It's not just about what I shot or you shot. And in fact, more and more, I discourage that. Everybody wants to see that kill and everybody wants to see that trophy buck. But in the end, really, people want to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but in fact, please comment if I'm wrong, but people want to learn, how can I do it? They don't really care what Kevin shot or what Mitch shot or caught or whatever, although it's cool to see pictures. They want to know how they can do it. And so we really work hard at trying to educate and trying to, for example, with Bozone Live, talking about the rut, like why are we hunting? Why are we making these decisions to hunt this way at this time? What's happening in this particular cycle of the rut? And it's no different with fishing. With fishing education programs, teach people about spawning periods, teach people about sensitivities, teach people about hook size. Hook size is a big deal. Trebles versus singles, barbs, no barbs, all these different things, right? Even the right kind of rod, the right size of rod to handle a fish properly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a huge factor, especially when we're talking about sturgeon and stuff in particular, right? Like, I mean, I'm not one to use my frozen fishing rod to go for sturgeon. It is all really about the educate. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but how many places are you able to go from an outdoor store aspect where if you were to say I'm fishing for sturgeon, that they would even know what it is you want to use to be able to fish them? I use Adam, but in general, people just don't know.
Adam commented. Was that Adam that commented the sturgeon are getting hammered?
It was, yes. And Broden had actually recommended maybe Adam does some videos on it because Adam is very well known in southern Alberta for if you're going for sturgeon and you want the experience of knowing how to handle and catch and use the right gear, Adam is the guy, right?
That's right. Yep.
The kid named,
go ahead.
The kid formerly named as the Horseshoe Kid.
The former Horseshoe Kid, yes. So, you know, talking about all this, Kevin, I know you do some traveling, Mitch, you as well. I've even traveled around. Do you think from a management perspective that there is a province that's maybe doing it right we should try to follow or mirror? Or do you think that it's something that we should be looking elsewhere? I mean, I'm going to use an example of, I look at how, yes, I watch Northwoods Law. Minnesota manages their fisheries and their outdoors, and it's all about education.
Yeah. I've fished Minnesota a lot as a kid. We used to always go to a cabin there till I was like 18. The difference between Minnesota and Alberta is lakes. Numbers. Everywhere you go, there's a new lake. Yeah. The population is not the same as Alberta, but you have lake. Then you go a little further, there's another lake. And the populations are crazy. Lake to people ratio, same as Saskatchewan, right? Alberta doesn't have that. And when you have mega centers like Calgary and Edmonton, Red Deer, the lakes in that area just get pounded, just destroyed. Like those areas, like if you want to keep fish out of them, I'm sad to say, like the draw, if you do a draw, you have to have like a cap if people want to keep fish out of those lakes, because that's the only way to make it work in this area. You can't, like Sylvan, open walleyes. Is there any more walleyes?
Yeah.
They got smashed.
Yeah, what do we have? 400 lakes in Alberta, fishable lakes in Alberta, and only a small handful are actually close to major centers. Yeah. And the remote lakes, in fact, I did an article in the Alberta Fishing Guide last year on, I think it was last year, on remote fishing and backcountry lakes. And doing that, it actually made me realize, you know, even the times I get into backcountry lakes, it's relatively little pressure. But man, these accessible water bodies are insane for pressure. And this year with the one I did for Fishing Guide as well, I can't remember the term. There's a proper biological term for it, but it's something in sync fishery or something along that line. And essentially, accessible points to the North Saskatchewan and even South Saskatchewan, they get pounded. And so those fish get hit hard, taken out. But really, that's why we have such an exceptional fishery on the NSR, is because most of it's inaccessible.
Right. Yeah. That's a very valid point.
Yep. And it truly is a world-class fishery.
I have not had the best luck there, but I feel like the person that took me is kind of a city boy. So I don't know if he's still watching, but that's just kind of a shot at Lee.
But you're going to say Mitch.
No, we do that before and after the show, Kevin. You brought up Bozone Live. What? Where can people check that out if they want to know more? Where is it broadcasting?
Yeah, that's on Wild TV. Heather and I have been on hosting several shows over the years on Wild, but only for short periods. Bozone Live is one of Ryan Kohler's babies, and really what it is a live, semi-live show where we essentially self-film or film in teams, but most of it's self-filmed during the rut, the whitetail rut, in the Bozone, the Edmonton Bozone. And there's a whole bunch of us on that team. And literally they have guys hot shotting to meet us on the country roads, grab our fresh video, they race it back to the studio, and it airs within the hour, sort of thing.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
quick.
it's a pretty neat phenomenon. We went through a lot of growing pains last year. I'm hoping that we can kind of, improve it a bit, but we did get lots of really good feedback. I'm hoping we can make it a little more informative and helpful for viewers as well.
How much pressure is that? I mean, we're not talking about shooting over a prolonged amount of time and cutting it up. I mean, that has to be a lot of pressure to make sure that the shot and the filming that you're doing is accurate,
Yeah.
because it's going up in an hour, man.
Yeah, we've all Ryan's been really good at kind of giving us some direction on the type of shots we need, that kind of thing. So we're getting good at, or decent anyways, better, let's say that, at actually capturing the clips that we need. We need to improve on capturing the kill shot, because that is very difficult. And anybody that's ever tried it knows it's extremely difficult to get a trophy whitetail, first of all, an archery shot, self-filming, and thirdly, you're asking for mission impossible. It's really difficult. And my wife Heather, she hit it out of the park last year with hers. She did great, and a couple of the guys got theirs as well. But in terms of the pressure of getting it done, yeah, it's a rat race. But we have an amazing production team. The guys that host the show or MC the show and produce it are amazing.
Broden's just asking, is that the show with Jason Moss in it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought Broden was just a poser. Go figure. That guy knows his stuff.
Yeah.
So Wild
Jason's
TV,
a great guy.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah.
When you mentioned about recording the kill shot, I mean, how do you even pull that off if you guys are in the setting that you're in? Like, it must be a ton of stress.
Mitch, do you want to comment on that first?
Well, I've learned over the years to keep a wider angle. Like, don't go for that picturesque, like, blasting through. You can always bring it back in on the video, so you keep a wider screen. Like,
yeah, a lot of it.
I've done the tight shots,
yeah.
But you can't do it when you're solo hunting. You have to keep it a little wider, because I've been in minus 30 set up on this cut line before, and your tripod's just like waiting for that thing to come across, and it's just slowly coming across, and you're just like and it's just like locking up on you. But I always keep it wider, just because you're gonna get it in the frame, you're gonna catch it as long as you have good quality. And if you're using certain color fletchings, like fletching color for film, we've always had good luck watching those shoot, and you always see it, especially on bears. Anything white, you can always watch a good shot. And blue, white and blues I really like, because they show up good on deer. But it's always a challenge. Like, you're always worrying about it, and you just want that shot. But it works sometimes, it works half the time not.
I've had lots of shots where I had the camera going. At some point, it's a no man's land where you just got to draw and hope it's still in the frame. And I've had lots where they've walked out of the frame and thunk, there you go, it's done. But more than anything, what I've learned is we all have great places that we say, this is the perfect tree. That tree I looked for 2 hours, and that tree is the tree with the halo on it. That's the tree that has to have a stand. It's singing to me, but it doesn't offer a video shot. And that's a nightmare. So I try to get into, when I can, I try to get into
with the light on the end. Is that something that's allowed?
Shot with the light on the end?
With the
Luminox.
Luminox. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just noticed I look like Frankenstein here sitting in the dark. You guys mind if I turn my off light on?
Yeah.
Give me half a second. The answer to that question is yes, they are legal, and Mitch can comment.
Yeah, no, Luminox are totally legal in Alberta. And it's great for footage, and it's easy to find your arrow after a pass through. If you don't have a pass through, it's gonna stick in, but you can find your arrow later in the dark. They're great for low light conditions, and you can usually find the arrow, but if it's stuck into a bone, you're not gonna find it.
Right. Kevin,
Yeah.
I just assumed that maybe you're practicing for hunting season and being kind of like camouflaged in, because now you're really standing out and I can see it. So you can't draw down on me.
Well, it's funny. I wasn't even paying attention to the video. Look, I saw this great halo here. That's spooky. Yeah. I shot a Luminox for a while, and I've actually moved away from them. I found the Luminox for my own use. They can bend, and I'm more about rigidity in my nocks and just keeping things constant.
Is there a product you're enjoying using right now for that kind of stuff, Kevin, or are you brand specific?
We have sponsors. We have quite a list of sponsors actually, but in terms of bow hunting, we're big Hoyt people. We've been sponsored by Hoyt for years, and they've just done amazing things for us and for our hunting. To be honest, some of our listeners might recognize. Oh, I don't know, many years ago, we shot APA for a little bit, but you know what? We were still kind of hanging on with Hoyt, and that was a short-lived relationship, to be honest. So we just kind of went back to what we knew and liked. So Hoyt and Easton and Swarovski's, people know pretty much. I think everybody knows Swarovski's one of our big partners, and I do not and will not support any companies that I don't really believe in their product. A lot of people comment and they say all the time, "Oh, you just get free stuff." Well, no, I won't use it unless I believe in it.
And you had a lined up for a great hunting season.
Oh, geez.
BC. And what happened there? I know we're texting. I was in Northern Saskatchewan fishing. Then you sent a message because you thought the show was supposed to be in August and had a mishap on like a hunt of a lifetime.
Oh yeah, I thought I was in great shape because I got back down to human population in time for the show, and I thought, oh great, let's go. Anyways, I was a month early. Heather and I both went on separate hunts. I was in north central BC. I was on a goat hunt. Had trained for 2 months, doing stairs like a machine. Even went out and cut an old logging trail through solid bush, just enough to plow through with a quad to get into this one area. Long story short, my partner had an issue with his ATV and it went sideways on a trail, was at risk of going down the mountain. I jumped off mine, grabbed his bike, and just through what happened, he gunned to the throttle, bike slid over and cranked my ankle 90 degrees over.
Oh.
And I thought it was busted. It just felt like it snapped in half. Anyway, I managed to shake it off and just work through the pain, hiked up. We got to the top of the trail, hiked up 2 kilometers. But by the time we had to side hill up in the rocks, there wasn't a chance. So I had to bail on that hunt. It'll have to wait till next year. And we've been recuperating ever since. I've only hunted. This has never happened in my lifetime where I've only hunted one morning by this time in the season. So very strange. Heather, ironically, had almost the same thing happen. She was on a fly-in trip in northern BC, and all of a sudden, well, not all of a sudden, sorry, they landed. They stashed their rafts. They were supposed to raft out 73 kilometers after they killed their stone sheep. Well, as luck would have it, it was a nightmare. It was nothing but deadfall and blowdown, and it took them a day and a half to go 7 kilometers with full packs. She ended up torquing her ankle. Weather was horrendous, 100K winds, pounding rain for 4 days. Finally, they said, you know what, we got a goat tag as well. So her partner shot a goat and they hauled it out 10K, ready to get in the rafts. Find out the raft, a bear ate one raft and stole the other one. So they had to inReach. They couldn't even drift out. They had no way to escape. So they had to inReach for a float plane to come. Then they had to climb another mountain to get injured. See, and then she torqued her back. So she's been recuperating too for a while. But yeah.
You guys had horrible luck this year.
Oh, it's been brutal. So I'm hoping we can get after it with Moose here.
How does that affect your mental game, Kevin? Like, just from what you're telling me, I mean, yourself and Heather have put in so much time and effort and been looking forward to that. Does that get in your head, or are you the kind of person that is just like, get them next year?
Not so much. I mean, I need material to be able to do what I do, but at the same time, we hunt for the essence of it. We hunt for the experience. We hunt to put meat in the freezer. That part's frustrating because we haven't put any meat in the freezer yet. But moose is coming up in a few days here, and we'll be in the game for that. And hopefully, we can fill the freezer there. I know Mitch is going for moose.
Oh yeah, I'm pumped. I can get away from work. It's gonna be my first hunting trip.
Good deal.
Actually, Kevin, plans have kind of changed for Mitch. I've informed him that if he decides not to show for the show the first week of October, he will accidentally be rolling his ankle at work. So there's a strong possibility Mitch won't be able to go for moose this year, but I'm just
sorry,
throwing
Mitch.
that out there.
No,
Sorry, man.
no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit at my desk. As soon as I get to work, I'm gonna sit there, and there will be no chance of it. And I'll just send my emails, and I'm gonna sit there. I'm not
I
gonna
actually believe there is a long lost relative that works at your work whose niece or aunt knows how to swing pipe in the figure skating world. So I'm not sure. Just throwing that out there, you might want to be cautious or phone in sick for work for a couple days if you miss the show.
Nope.
Put on your PPE.
PPE.
I hired.
Oh, we lost you there, Mitch. You're blowing in your microphone.
Yeah, no one's gonna get hired there if they don't hunt or fish. Actually, right now we need people.
Now, do you both have moose tags, or are we talking general area?
I got to hunt the bow zone. I don't have a draw this year. Heather too.
Yeah, no, I got a draw. My buddy's got a draw. Actually, my one buddy shot a heck of a bull elk from his zone this year. He took his horses in, and he sent me the picture Sunday. And he's just like, yeah, this zone's sweet. He's never been in there. He just threw his tag in there. I've been waiting for Yaha, but I'm kind of getting sick of waiting for Yaha because I'm sitting on the edge every year. And this new zone sounds good. Like my buddy there, I took him for his first muley hunt, and we took a real nice buck muley down south. So it's always been the thing, hey, you owe me a hunt. And it's like, yeah, no, and everyone goes. So he's got the horses. He went in there this year and smoked a beautiful bull. Like, I think it went like, he thinks it's around 130, 160, right against the mountains, pack in, which is a nice, respectable bull in Alberta. It's no monster, but hey, I like meat. That's what it comes down to.
You know what? I shot the smallest bull I've ever shot in my life last year, and that has to be one of the best hunts I've ever done. I tend to focus on antlers, but last year I was so happy with that bull, and the best meat I've had too.
See, the thing with me is, if you can ask all my friends, I like the experience. If I don't see the biggest animal, I'm gonna shoot a small one. I love meat. I love that tender stuff.
It's the meat in the freezer. That's how my stepdad was growing up. I'm going to take the meat in the freezer before I eat.
And you know what? Look at me, and they're like, "You could shoot a good deer," and I'm like, "Well, I just want something that tastes like it melts in your mouth, like oh man."
I mean, whitetails, I still tend to hold out for pretty good buck, but other animals, I don't know. Like I tend to be more about the experience. I mean, I do try to focus on bigger animals more just because of the challenge of the mature, like a lot of us, right? For the mature animals. But, if it's a good quality experience and one that I'm going to remember, man, I'll let go of that arrow. I'll hit the switch. I'll shoot. No problem at all. Yeah.
Bust the back strap.
That's right.
One last question, Kevin. What is your favorite wild game to eat?
Bighorn sheep by far.
Really?
Yep. Early use? Early use?
Yeah, early use would be probably the best. But I do like any rams that we've gotten have been good too. So That I love caribou and elk.
I've tried caribou, wasn't a fan. Elk, I love. It could be because the caribou I tried was about 30-day dry age from Nunavut, but
Yeah.
that was a
Or-
little bit of a fresh taste to it.
Yeah.
Was it already chewed on?
Yeah, it might have been under the permafrost, pre-chewed by a couple of other slipper making grannies. I'm not really sure, but I can tell you what, when that thing came out of the container, whew, it was fresh. That's what they would call maybe teen spirit. I'm not sure what it's called. But. Well, Kevin, I really want to thank you for joining us on the show. I told you before the show, an hour flies by fast when we're talking hunting, and it's true because we're over an hour. What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to know more?
You know what? Feel free to get me. You can PM me through Facebook or DM me through Instagram is a great way. Kevin Wilson Outdoors or my wife Heather Wilson Outdoors. Follow us for sure if you're interested, and you can get us on our website at albertahuntingadventures.com. I don't know if you want me giving out phone numbers, so I'll just leave it at that.
And I believe Heather has a website called heatherdoesitbetterthankevin.com as well. So feel free to check that
Probably.
out.
Yeah.
Or
everybody knows that.
Check him out, Outdoor Canada. Kevin Wilson has some phenomenal articles in there. I'll tell you why I'll be reading them a lot, Kevin, is because I may have to buy a bow this year.
Oh, good deal.
Marcy's not watching, and it's the only way I can get away with it.
Alberta viewers can also see us or check out my stuff in Alberta Outdoors when I do the tips for the outdoors column.
I will be signing up for that as well. And also check them out on Bowzone Live, Wild TV.
In November.
Bowzone Live.
In November, yep.
In November. Mitch, I know you got a hunt coming up. What is your plan for the rest of October?
Work. I got that hunt for a week. Then we go back to head back to Nordig. We got a ewe hunt. Then I'll try to get my dad on his ewe for the next little bit. Then November I'm down in southern Alberta for a mule deer hunt. And that's the season.
You're going to be a busy boy, and I can tell you one thing for sure. I won't be hunting this year, and if I don't get my rear in gear, I won't be ice fishing either. Speaking of ice fishing, next week's guest, Mr. Adam Turnbull. Adam, I don't know if you're on here, but we're going to put him on the spot for the next few weeks as we get ready for my favorite season, ice fishing season. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Kevin, it's been awesome having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We need to get you booked back on here pretty soon because there's probably some fishing tips that I need to learn from you. We'll see y'all later. Next week's guest, Mr. Adam Turnbull. Thanks for joining. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.